Right, let's get into it then. We'll start with the first game, which is obviously the Fnatic versus Misfits game. You touched on it there. The sad part is this. At the end of the playoffs of last split, Misfits was in a position where they've lost in situations where they were one game from Worlds and would have been in the upper bracket final. Remember, they almost beat Rogue. Inspired had to do that bonkers 1v5 on fucking... There they go, Viego. He did that Ricky's one where it's still semi-broken as a champion. And then they obviously did what you always worry about with rookies, which is they didn't qualify for Worlds after that. They looked like it was so close and they didn't make it. Now, with that said, if I could put a pin in right when the end of that playoff run ends, everyone, minus maybe Razork apparently, everyone surely goes, let's run this back. This looked good. Dude, we could have been in the final. If you look at how Fnatic even played when they got to the final themselves, maybe we could have actually, maybe we wouldn't win. Mad Lions didn't. We could have gone to Worlds. We could have been second, mate. All things were possible. And the top part of the map was popping. The solo lanes, which they've attained. And obviously Razork, that was looking great. Vander was even doing a good job as it. In general, the team actually was starting to look fairly complete for a team that had gotten some rookies in themselves, unlike the other teams we referred to before. Did gamble and keep the players in after the first split where things are questionable, give them the time to grow, and they were starting to, as you say, reap dividends when it got to the summer split. So unfortunately, I think it's the nature of a mixture of politics and maybe they didn't want to match the same offers or whatever. As soon as you lose Razork, mate, there was people who wanted Razork to win the MVP last split. He was very highly regarded. I was part of them. As soon as you lose him, right, here's our question, right, mate. It's true. If you watch the ERLs, Zlatan certainly would have been one of the top junglers. But I think, unfortunately, even in the first games, you've already seen, it's not going to be a 1-for-1 with Razork. What do you think about the jungle swap for Misfits?
I was part of the people that would consistently say that Razork was very underrated last year. I think he was the best jungler during the summer split. Even if there was Inspired that played very well, Viegos and went for crazy outplays. If you look, Misfits on the paper should not have had that many early leads against very, very good teams that have insane laners, and they consistently found ganks and very, very good plays. And I think the way Razork understands vision in early game always make the team that plays with him very, very strong in the early game. I don't think that Zlatan is a bad player. I think he's not as well-rounded as Razork is. I think Razork has much more experience and understands what wins games or win early games and at the highest level. And I was very, very surprised to see Misfits not compete to get someone on par with them, especially seeing Inspired going to NA, but money talks and I respect players' decision. But I feel fortunately, VTO so far, we'll see today, has been showing that kind of whoever plays with him as a jungle plays pretty well because he puts so much pressure as an individual that he managed to kind of create lead by himself and has been popping off pretty much the whole early season so far. But I don't think that Misfits has been upgrading this split because they still have a duo lane that looks pretty shaky in comparison to other ones. They still have these consistent problems with Fierit overextending in early game and dying. And they have not improved in the mid-jungle sector. The only thing that they have for them is they're still very good at team fighting. Irit and VTO seems to pull very good team fights regardless of the teammates they do have. But I don't think Misfits is more equipped than last year. And that's very sad to see.
Where in your sort of ranking, whereabouts do you have them placed? I'm guessing it's 5th or something, 5th or 6th?
It's not as bad as you might expect because I think that a lot of other teams have been, as I say, not improving. So I'd say that besides Fnatic, I'm still going to give hopes to Vitality on the paper. But Fnatic, Vitality, probably G2. And then I think that any team Misfits, Mad and Rogue seems very, very tight in terms of individual level. And everything below that line feels very, very worse so far, right? Because the season is long and people can improve or they can be roster swaps. But XL, BDS, SK, Astralis have shown for me clear weaknesses and they feel more like a ERL team so far than an actual LEC team.
Yes. The other thing I wanted to ask about is this. if you consider that Misfits, as far as I can tell, they're of the same mind I am. You are building this team around the idea that you want to use the stars in the solo lanes. Like, those are the players that are going to fuel and power the team. So in that context, I don't mind the Neon pickup. He's clearly an LEC level player. It's just, for me, he'll always be in the bottom half of the ADCs. Like, I don't see him as someone like, I don't really know, like, to me, he's not a star ADC, put it that way. So in this team, I don't mind it. Like, essentially, he's the tertiary carry, as we'd say in English, in this team. The question I have is, what do you think about the support player they brought in?
So he was one of my hidden gems of the Airwells. I had a lot of hopes. I only see him play the summer split when he was at Gamers Origin. I think he's a very intelligent player overall. He is not ready on the same level as Targamas. You know, Targamas was already ready even to play like at Worlds when he left ERLs, like he was more than experienced. But I mean, I don't know how much the coaching staff of Misfits is able to make him improve. But I think that it's better to go with him than to go with Vander. Not because I think one Vander is like bad or anything, but I think that you need to shuffle a little bit things in your bot lane because you knew already Vander wouldn't make you win lanes. So if it doesn't make you win lanes, you better go with a rookie because you have a higher chance of growth than the current one that's probably more on the decline than Mercer. So I think it was a good pick for Neon. I think it's an overall fine ADC. But the result of that is obviously it's probably a more improving dual lane than Kobe and Vander, but it's definitely not a much better dual lane at the moment than Kobe and Vander. And they don't have an upgrade in the jungle.
Yes, I mean, essentially, you're gambling the known quantity, which, as you say, it's not like it was the best support or anything. It's just a very veteran support who could maybe add other intangibles. You're gambling the idea that, like, let's say Mercer became like the fourth best support in the league. All of a sudden, you might have an extra gear to your vehicle, as it were. You might have another component that can actually make you surprisingly better than you should be on. Want to see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.